Hello, Francie.
I'm back.
Are you back?
Yes, it's Elizabeth. I'm back.
What are you doing?
I want to go to Puchert again.
Are you going to Puchert again?
No, I want to go and go to Puchert later.
Listen here, Francie. Come here. Give me a hug. Can I get a hug?
I missed you.
I missed you too. What have you been taking for granted? My name is Puchert, and this is Finding Frequency. So, I've been sitting today trying to think and drum up some ideas around what have I been taking for granted, especially now that I'm stuck here at home. Well, relatively. As you know, Europe is opening up a little bit and there's definitely freedom of movement. There's a lot of things that I miss. And funny enough, one of the first things that came up, and if you listen to this show at all at a regular basis, you will know that I have an insane love for coffee. And I really do miss a good old coffee shop. And I think it's because I'm a little bit of a recluse. Coffee shops are where I go to be between people without having too much of a commitment. I like to observe them because people like you are interesting.
Hi, my name is Lara and I am from East London in South Africa. Vander and I are first cousins and I've known him all my life. So I'm an occupational therapist in a government hospital in South Africa, and I've been working for almost 4 years now. I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I enjoy working with my teammates, and I enjoy seeing my patients and seeing the difference I make in their lives. But working in a government setting is quite challenging. When Cyril Ramaphosa announced the lockdown, it was a very emotional night for me because I was in denial that occupational therapy was an essential service. And not because I didn't believe that OT was an essential service, because obviously we are, but because I was scared. I didn't want to work in a pandemic. Who wants to work in a pandemic? I wanted to be safe at home. I wanted for me and my husband to go and live with my family for the lockdown period. And I wanted to be safe. That's a basic need, to feel safety. And at the beginning, at the hospital, we really struggled to get PPE for our department. And there was a shortage of masks, so we had to use one mask per week. So at the end of the day, you put your mask in a little envelope and you reuse it. And the end of the week, then you can throw it away and get a new mask. And that's probably one of the best feelings. And our department also didn't get gowns to see our patients in. So what we did was we went to work in our clean scrubs and then took an extra pair of clean scrubs in a little packet, and then see our patients throughout the day, with our gloves and our surgical mask and our visor that we had to buy. And at the end of the day, we would get dressed in clean scrubs to go home in. And then I also put a black bag, like a refuse bag over my car seat. I don't know if it helped for anything, but it made me feel better. And then before I got out of the car, I left my work shoes in another packet in the car, and I would walk to the front door in my sandals and, leave my sandals at the front door and sort of shuffle in the house to not touch anything, take off my work clothes. And I did washing every single day, which is exhausting and also, took a lot of electricity. And it was a difficult time because it was new. No, not even one of us have ever worked during a pandemic. And it was something new for us. It was a scary thing because you had to take responsibility to protect yourself and to protect your patients as well. So simple things like wiping your pen with a alcohol pad and not touching the patient after you touch their medical notes. Simple things like that we had to be reminded of. And one thing that I have learned during this pandemic is how much I have taken for granted, everything in my life. How I've taken for granted seeing my family every weekend or just popping in for tea. Because I am a healthcare worker, I see patients on a daily basis who potentially have COVID. Because we have started, treating every patient as if they had COVID, and we have started treating ourselves as if we had COVID to protect ourselves and also to protect the patients from us. That's a huge responsibility to make sure you don't infect patients and also make sure that they don't infect you. And it's really exhausting. It's very exhausting. Emotionally and physically, it's exhausting. And I will never again take for granted seeing my family, being with my family. That tight hug and being with your family, being able to sit next to your mom and your dad, holding their hand. And I will never, ever again take that for granted. And I can't wait to be able to see my family again and be able to hold their hand. And another thing that I will also never take for granted again is walking into a shop and seeing full shelves. Because at the beginning of the lockdown, people were scared. People were scared that there weren't going to be enough food and there weren't going to be enough toilet paper. So people stocked up. People stocked up on vitamins. Even now, vitamins are sold out in the shops. People stocked up on, food that can't perish. And I will never again take for granted walking into a shop and seeing full shelves. That is probably like such an exciting thing when I walk into the shop and I see that the shelves are full. And I must say this was a perk, having the essential service permit. When in the lockdown there were queues, because only I think 15 people were allowed in the shop. So there were long queues outside the shops because not everyone was working. So they had time to stand in the queues. And appropriate social distancing was applied, so that's great. But then we were working throughout this whole pandemic, and still working, we would go in our lunchtime to go and buy a few groceries because you didn't want to go after work. You would go in your lunchtime and the queue would be standing for meters and meters and meters. And then we were able to show our permits. So we always joked and said that, walk to the front of the queue, don't make eye contact with anyone, show your permits and go in. Because once you make eye contact, people give you some dirty looks. I mean, if they don't understand, then, it's understandable that they don't understand. Because they don't work in healthcare, probably. Maybe if some do, I don't know why they wait in the queue. But the people who wait in the queue probably aren't healthcare workers and they probably don't understand. And yeah, that was a big perk. But yeah, during this whole pandemic, I just learned that, never take for granted seeing your family. Never take for granted that hug and that squeezing of your family's member's hand and giving that kiss on the cheek. I will never ever take that for granted again.
Thanks for sharing, Lara. And of course, you made me think now, because one of the things that I have learned through this process and also will never, ever, ever take for granted is the fact that I've been able to spend all this time with my wife Marta and my crazy little boy Francie. I will never take their touch and the time that I can spend with them for granted ever again. And that brings me to the second part of this episode, because sometimes when you listen to me, I speak out of the context of myself and perhaps tell a story about my family and also the people who share their stories. But what is interesting is that there are people around them, and we all share this whole experience, because what happens to you has an impact on someone else.
Hi, I'm Christo and I'm Lara's husband. So I would just like to give you some insight on what the experience is for me as someone being married to a frontline worker that has experienced her working through this entire lockdown period and the pandemic. So for me, luckily being a chartered accountant and being in finance, the hard lockdown wasn't that tough because we could still manage to work from home and do everything on the cloud and emails and stuff. So our daily activities actually sort of went on as normal, obviously just not seeing face to face, but obviously Zoom boomed. So we got to keep those meetings and still seeing each other and adapting to this new way of dealing with things. But yeah, getting back to the point about being married to a frontline worker, it was quite tough, those first 3-4 weeks when they announced the hard lockdown and they said that it's a pandemic and everyone needs to stay at home, and your wife has to go to work and expose herself to the risks that we are all being protected against. And that's quite a hard thing to make peace with if you're sitting at home knowing that you're safe, but every morning you have to kiss your wife goodbye and then tell her to enjoy her day or good luck with your day, knowing that she might be exposed to this virus. And obviously for her, knowing that and then also still being worried that she could transfer the illness to myself with her staying it, and with anyone that she might be in contact with, like the most vulnerable people. So yeah, I think initially she was very tired. It was quite exhausting for her in terms of the mental side as well as the physical. But just knowing that you are out there sort of on your own while everyone else gets to be at home, it's quite tough. And I could see it was taking its toll on her, because obviously I had to try and motivate her and stay as positive as I could to help her state of mind and just make sure that she understands the importance of the work that she's doing for the people. And if she wasn't doing that, it could have serious implications to people, because as much as you do have COVID, or people have the risk of getting COVID, they still have all these other diseases and still need this physical therapy that OTs provide. So yeah, I think that was one of the important things that I took from the lockdown about that.
Thank you, Christo. And now to you. What is it that you will never, ever, ever take for granted again? Thanks for listening.